Go ahead. Make my day.
2, 1, 0.
Hello and welcome to Right and Writer, the official podcast of the Washington Free Beacon. I am your host, Elizabeth Harrington. You can follow me on Twitter at LizWFB. Free Beacon podcast is available on iTunes and Google Play. Please subscribe, tell your friends, and leave a review. Joining me from the right today is Free Beacon managing editor David Rutz, who's filling in for Matthew Continetti, who's away doing coastal elitist things in California this week. Hello, David.
Hello, Liz.
Further to David's right is Free Beacon president Aaron Harrison, who is also refusing to cooperate with the special counsel. We're not exactly sure what he does around the office, but he signs the checks, and that's good enough for us. Hello, Harrison.
I'll take the fifth.
And returning to the show today is the chairman of the Washington Free Beacon, Michael Goldfarb, international man of mystery and licensed Republican consultant. He'll be keeping our panelists in line. Hello, Goldfarb.
It's a pleasure.
Up first on Right and Writer, former Trump aide Sam Nunberg called into every cable news channel yesterday to say he's refusing to comply with the subpoena sent by Robert Mueller. His day ended having to tell CNN he wasn't drunk. Meanwhile, Mueller has subpoenaed all the Trump campaign's communications. Harrison, is Nunberg right, though? Can we finally call this a witch hunt?
Well, I think it's a witch hunt by the media. I mean, this whole display yesterday was a joke. What are the... I'm very confused as to what the actual news value of Sam Nunberg is. Now, I've never met the guy. I've never dealt with the guy. Barely even know this guy's relationship to the presidential campaign. My understanding is that he was a longtime communications director for Donald Trump personally. He wasn't even really around the campaign that long. When did he get fired? What, September?
I think before
August.
the campaign even.
Right.
August 2015.
Right. So, A, what possible information could this guy have on potential collusion? And B, I get that the guy has entertainment value, but there's no newsworthiness to putting him on cable 24/7 last night. It was a joke. Clearly, the guy's got some kind of an issue going on with, mentally, because
it's like watching a high-speed pursuit. I mean, they're going to put that on the air. Somebody wants to self-destruct on national television. They can't help themselves.
Right. No. Well, especially when it comes to destroying President Trump. That's really what they wanted to do. They got him to call Trump an idiot on basically every broadcast the guy was on. So that just kind of exposes the media for what this really is. They're interviewing somebody who has zero news value and will on the president.
Rutz, what did you think of Nunberg's very thoughtful conversations for hours on end on the media?
Well, that was just it. He was making news, and then he was undoing that news. I mean, he opened the day talking to the Post, and he said, "I'm not going to cooperate. I'm going to tear up this subpoena." And at the end of the day, it was like, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'll cooperate. I'll do whatever they say. And then he was saying, there's no way Trump colluded. But then he said, Trump, quote, may have done something. And this sent everyone into a complete tizzy. And I was more interested in the media reaction to it than anything else because, as Harrison said, this was nothing of actual news value was generated. He left the campaign after 6 weeks. He was there less than 2 months on that campaign. He says that he might have information, but then he said he's not sure. Then he says, and everyone is acting like this is going to break the whole thing open, but no news value was generated except to see a man have sort of a sad little breakdown. And also, it was rather untoward by, I think, Erin Burnett, who at the end of her interview said, it smells like you have alcohol on your breath. Well, then she smelled that when he sat down. So she interviewed someone she believed was intoxicated for 10, 15 minutes, and then at the end said, "I think you might be drunk." It was really
too good to check.
Yeah, it was.
She had to check after she got.
It was grotesque.
Goldfarb, what do you think about this whole escapade?
It's complicated. One, on the drinking thing, like that's sort of journalism 101 is get your subject drunk. So you really can't really indict her for taking advantage of that. That's like basic journalistic procedure. On the Nunberg issue, it's complicated. I have dealt with Mr. Nunberg. He is actually the guy who arranged for me to come in and meet with Donald Trump in, 2014, I guess, when he was interviewing people for a possible campaign staff.
Were there any Russians at that meeting?
There were not that I recall. I may recall at a future date that there were Russians, but not today. No, so Nunberg set that up for me, and so he has obviously good judgment in some sense. In another sense, I have to say I was kind of appalled by his remark that Sarah Huckabee Sanders is a fat slob, because Nunberg is actually a fat slob. I ate a meal with him. It was disgusting. I was actually like almost borderline physically ill watching him like inhale a pastrami sandwich.
And this actually, that's a good point, because his mentor is named Roger Stone. Roger Stone is arguably one of the finer gentlemen of our time, who is revolted by people with horrible table manners, namely Mark Penn, Hillary Clinton's former senior strategist. He called out several years ago for having just awful and atrocious table manners. I'm actually surprised he would associate with somebody that is that big of a pig.
Now that you say it, I am too. But I've eaten with Mark Penn, and Nunberg makes him look like child's play in the bad manners department.
Could this be part of why Trump dismissed him? Because we know how Trump treated John Kasich on the campaign. He made a point of saying how disgusting he was when he ate. We know Trump
honestly,
is grossed out by people who eat like that.
Yeah.
No, I know it is. Kasich does eat like a disgusting
The
human.
Nunberg thing, it's real. It was projection. And actually, I got to say, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, like, she has an impossible job. Like, absolutely impossible job, and she's managed it pretty well. What's the attack on Sarah Huckabee Sanders? Nobody has one. She goes out there every day, never has to apologize for anything, manages like the most unruly, violent, hostile press corps. She does a pretty good job. So it was like a crazy, unprovoked attack on her.
But she's a coward, according to Jim Acosta, who wouldn't take a CNN comment because she wouldn't answer his stupid question yesterday in the press briefing. He calls her out on Twitter. I mean, this goes to your point. She's got an impossible job. She's damned if she does. She's damned if she doesn't go out there. And here she is. She's got to take a bunch of crap from fake news Jim Acosta.
Let me just make one real quick point.
Right.
Right before Acosta whined about that, she had just taken a question from Brian Karem, that moron from Playboy, who is a CNN contributor. So actually, she had just taken a question from a CNN person.
Good point.
Acosta doesn't even know who's on his own network.
It was courage to take that question from Playboy.
Very brave. Stunning and brave.
Up next, several Democrats are coming under scrutiny for their continued ties with the anti-Semite Louis Farrakhan, and Congressman Danny Davis is defending his relationship with Farrakhan, saying the world is so much bigger than Farrakhan and, quote, the Jewish question. Rutz, is this the worst answer ever?
Well, it's a good thing that conservative media exists, or we wouldn't know that quote existed, or that is the worst response ever. Until Jake Tapper addressed this yesterday, this had received crickets from mainstream media figures. And yes, that is a horrible answer, and Louis Farrakhan is a deeply unserious, twisted, racist, horrible person. And it's amazing that a sitting congressman would even entertain the idea of meeting with him, let alone praise him in any way.
Harrison, what do you make of this?
Well, I was actually just surprised to see that Calypso Louis was still alive. I thought the dude died like 3 or 4 years ago. I hadn't heard of Louis Farrakhan in the news in a really long time. Now, that being said, Rutz, I think there's value with this guy. I actually kind of like that he's still around. He does a good job of really exposing a lot of these Democrats for who they are. They don't like the Jews very much. They don't like white people very much. They don't like pretty much anybody other than themselves. Like, this is a black nationalist front. It's extremely influential. Still clearly has a huge following. But at the same time, they're kind of a radical movement. And I like being able to expose the freak shows in Congress for who they are. So he serves a real purpose in this country. Glad to see he's still out there kicking.
Right, and these aren't no-name Democrats either. You got Maxine Waters, you have Keith Ellison that have ties to this guy.
Barack Obama.
Of course, yeah. The picture that just came out. So that the
entire congressional Black Caucus.
But I mean, ones that are still in Congress. Goldfarb, but what are your thoughts on this?
Holy shit, I can't believe the Democrats are cool with Farrakhan. How could we ever have deduced this? No, I think it's really interesting because, you've got this real break now in the Democratic Party where you have this sort of, look at the Women's March. That's really the interesting place where the Farrakhan stories popped up, is the ties between the Women's March leaders and Farrakhan, their total lack of apology for them. Not only are they not apologetic, but they don't even seem to grasp the issue at play. Like, they're nuts. They're actual anti-Semites. And at the same time, you have a Jewish leadership essentially in the Democratic Party. The highest official in the Democratic Party right now is Chuck Schumer. You have Dianne Feinstein, who's basically getting kicked out of her own party, while the California Democratic Party passes resolution after resolution that's anti-Israel. The party won't rally behind her. So I do think we're starting to see a trend with this progressive movement where Jewish Democrats at the elected level are either going to have to be anti-Israel or they're not going to be welcome in the party. And it's weird because that left-wing side of the party is led by Bernie Sanders, who's like a kind of pro-Israel Jew, or at least he was pro-Israel
before. Isn't he an
before.
atheist officially now?
Probably.
He's like, I mean, he is their leader, right? And so, but once he's gone, which, you know, the guy's pretty old, Feinstein, Schumer, like these folks, they don't really have a home anymore. And so I sort of see a light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe, just maybe there's a day 4 years from now, 6 years from now, where like the holy grail of neoconservatism and the Jews break from the Democratic Party and come our way.
I think it bears mentioning real quick that Keith Ellison, who Louis Farrakhan specifically called out in his speech last Sunday, and was like, oh, he used to be a brother and used to be part of the organization. He's the deputy chair of the Democratic National Committee. He's the number 2 man in the entire party, and he was in Louis Farrakhan's hotel room not 2 years ago. That is an incredible story.
Yeah, no, it is. Also, but like I could give you $20 and you go set up an office and that'd be like equivalent to the DNC right now. I mean, it is a non-entity. And Obama made it as much. So I agree with you. It's like shocking
Hillary
that he's
sucked it dry.
Yeah, it's like the DNC is a non-entity.
I just feel like if Ronna McDaniel had a hotel meeting with David Duke, CNN might be interested in that.
Up next, the 80-year-old Senator Thad Cochran announced he is resigning due to poor health after numerous reports of him being frail and disoriented. Harrison, are they finally listening to you?
He's only 80? I mean, that guy, I thought he was like, I'm speechless right now, clearly, because I thought this guy had basically been incapacitated with dementia for the past 6 months. Now, I saw his farewell quote said that he was going to go ahead and serve out his term as the appropriations chairman, so that we get through appropriations season so he can get enough pork kicked back to Mississippi. I mean, quite a quote for the quote unquote king of pork of the United States Senate. Listen, this is a big issue for me. Octogenarians in the Senate and up, spend a lot of their time in the hospital. They're not really with it. There are the exceptions. I get it. But what are people doing running in their late 70s and early 80s and late 80s for re-election? It's kind of a worthless endeavor. It just doesn't end well. And there are plenty of other people in their states that can do just as good of a job in the United States Senate. Nobody has a right to a Senate seat. These people need to be primaried every time that they run for election, and they need to have a challenge in the general.
Goldfarb?
Catheter injuries are very serious. Okay, you get a catheter injury and you make it another 6 months in the Senate, tip of the hat to you. Okay, I get a catheter injury, I'm never coming out of my house again.
Are you speaking from personal experience?
No, I think I can imagine the severity of what you have to put out a statement about your catheter injury. That's a real injury.
That is true. Rutz, this also opens up another Senate seat that is currently held by Republicans. Should they be worried about the midterms?
Overall or in Mississippi?
Just overall, but
overall, extremely worried. Yes, I think
still another candidate they have to find.
What are you talking about? They should be worried. Why the Republicans need to be worried about the Senate seat in Mississippi?
No. I asked her overall. She said overall. No, not worried in Mississippi. I think they can avoid another Roy Moore disaster there. But yes, in Mississippi, no, it's a safe seat. But overall, yes, they should be very worried with all these recent results. It's trending very badly for the Republican. But Harrison looks like he disagrees.
I think you're out of your mind. Listen, the economy has never been stronger over the past 20 years. Right now, we are nearly at full employment in this country. The stock market is still kicking along. Yeah, we had some some ebbs and flows, but that's natural. But there's really, I think that this is a really overblown argument by the establishment media and the bitter Republicans that are still that Trump won, and of course the Democrats are loving it because they've got all of their prospects are always looking good, so they're going to promote that as much as possible. But I think when you look at the fundamentals of the political environment right now, history not necessarily on the Republican side, but let me tell you something. We've got, what is it? Democrats are defending 21 seats right now? Ish. I don't know. I
think it's 26. And Republicans only defending 8. The map for the Senate
the map
is
great
Republicans.
in the Senate, but like, guess what? Like, we have also done a great job of gerrymandering the living out of the rest of the country for the House. So we're in good shape there. The economy is strong. And I think that this is a really overblown argument on the Democrats. I, right now, do not see a Democratic wave developing. And I've talked to a lot of pollsters, talked to a lot of Washington insiders, talked to a lot of people up on the Hill, and let me tell you something. Tide's starting to turn.
I very much disagree.
Heard it here first.
I think a blue wave is coming. I think this wave of retirements.
You've been rooting for the blue wave since Trump won.
That is not true. And also, voter anger is a stronger emotion to vote than, things are going pretty well. The economy was improving in 2016 and we had a popular incumbent president and Trump won. The economy isn't everything, especially not in midterms.
I think that's a little bit of inexperience on your part.
Okay, now, before we jump into our culture topics on Right and Writer, it's time to check in with our favorite pop culture expert, Natalie Johnson. Hello, Natalie.
Hello, Liz.
And clearly we've come to the best part of the show because we have to talk about the Bachelor recap from last night, which sincerely, I think for the first time, Chris Harrison was correct when he said the most dramatic episode ever. What happened?
Hands down, the most dramatic episode ever, easily. So last night we had the big proposal. It was the finale of The Bachelor. We had Ari get down on one knee for one of the women, Becca, and then change his mind, I guess a couple of months later, and decide he wanted to go with the other contestant, Lauren. So he broke the engagement off with Becca on in front of the camera, in front of everyone, and she had absolutely no warning, completely blindsided her, and it was just really terrible to watch.
Right. I think it was only a couple of weeks, but their relationship in total is only like 6 weeks long. Anyway, so it's a long time, just a couple of weeks being engaged. But yeah, my favorite part was, what is she thinking? Why the cameras are still recording their dates now when they have to secretly meet up because they can't tell the world yet because the show hasn't come out. The cameras are following her around. She's completely blindsided.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was a complete trap. They obviously had the cameras following her around, which they do not do when the Bachelor season is over. They prompted her with questions going on and on about how much she loved Ari and was so excited to spend this weekend with him. And then he walks in and breaks off the engagement, and it's just a disaster. But honestly, I wanted more from Becca. I think she was just in such total shock that she was not really reactive in the moment. But I mean, if that were me, I mean, there would have been some punches thrown and maybe an arrest. I don't know.
Harrison.
It was disappointing to see the lack of violent emotion coming from Becca after what can only be described as the most cold-blooded move in reality TV history. They set a Roach Motel trap for her to come back. They like, just for the audience at home, if you missed it, Ari proposed to Becca. He dumped Lauren on the same day, and he follows it up with what we think is about 3-4 weeks after the proposal was accepted, an offer of a romantic weekend in a Hollywood Hills mansion, sponsored by The Bachelor. It was going to be filmed. So she flies from her home in Minnesota out to L.A. to spend a romantic weekend with her fiance. And she walks in the door. He's followed by an entire camera crew. And what happens? Within 5 minutes of them being there, the camera crew's racing around in the background. He lets her loose, cuts her off, says, "It's over, baby. I'm going back to the blonde."
Can you finally admit then that Natalie and I were right, that Becca should have went off with Ross in Peru? She could have found love in Peru with her ex.
Listen, I'm starting to regret coming down so hard on her boy Ross, the strength coach at Stanford University's
Team
football
Ross.
team. Look, the guy with his greasy hair, his stupid suit. I mean, the dude looked like a high school strength coach.
Whoa. Back up.
Better than Ari,
I
though.
completely forgot about Ross. That's a whole interesting, interesting follow we could have. Maybe he'll come on the show tonight on the After
I
the
hope so.
Roast.
I'm trying to get him to be the
There
next
could be
Bachelor.
another proposal, like on Bachelor Winter Games.
Oh, true.
I know that broke your heart.
Can I
Natalie,
just
with
say
Benoit, but-
two things about how excellent that show was last night. I think Chris Harrison has been, over the last 20 years, preparing his entire life for this moment because
my gosh.
he is the nice guy on TV everyone loves. And like Harrison said, he helped set up one of the biggest slam dunks
Complicit.
on a woman on live television and TV history.
No,
it was,
I love. They
it was
cut back
incredible.
to
and it was
Chris
great to
Harrison.
watch. And two, just real quick, I love the split screen debate style cameras that they had on Ari and Becca while the breakup was happening. Well done, ABC. I was impressed.
That was awesome. But yeah, they cut back to Chris Harrison every time. Just this solemn look on his face, and he's like,
And he knew the entire
He knew what
time.
he was doing.
He
"The
set
one
it up.
that set up the cameras. He brought her in there." He's like, "I know it's really bad." Chris Harrison's a terrible person.
No.
Yes,
don't
yes,
be
he is.
No.
The fame went to his head. He was happily married, and then he left his wife because he's like, "Oh, I host The Bachelor.
Listen,
he should be The Bachelor."
I think what we have going on right now is we've got the women that are all stirred up. Their real hatred is for Ari for pulling off this shiesty move where he told 3 women in the semifinals that he loved them and then proceeded to take them, to take them to the fantasy suite and do the wild thing, with every one of them on successive nights. And then he cut, who was the
Kendall.
third? Kendall loose.
the taxidermist.
So that actually, we knew what was going to go on. This guy has no problem lying to the women. He has no problem telling them that he loves them, and he has no problem betting them the next night. So we saw this thing coming. I think that some of my co-hosts here are just kind of mad at Ari, and they're taking it out on Chris Harrison.
I agree with that. I have taken it out on Chris Harrison, and I want to apologize on air to Chris Harrison for that. I'm
Thank
so
you.
sorry.
He-
I apologize.
He
for
did
nothing.
collude after the fact, but he wasn't the prime mover of this tragedy.
Well, the other thing that was great about last night was it was the first raw, unedited clip in reality TV history, not Bachelor history, reality TV history that went on for an hour. And
We finally, after all these years, we finally got some reality.
I'm just
in
curious.
TV.
I have 2 questions. One, I want to know, is there a database of all reality TV shows that shows like whether this has never happened before about this raw unedited clip? But the other thing is, I never want to see a raw unedited clip ever again. I mean, it was an hour long of her crying, and the camera was in such motion that I literally got sick watching this thing.
Yeah, we got enough. We like our reality TV when it's manufactured. For
Yeah,
the
I'm all
good
about the
drama,
editing.
Not the.
I'm all
not
about
the
editing.
not-
Slice
it's
it up.
too real. It's too real. But now we have to tune in again because 3 hours wasn't enough
No.
for him to break, one girl's heart. Now we have to see if he.
You sound like that's a bad thing. That is an excellent thing.
Oh, I can't wait for
well,
tonight.
Okay, so thank you so much, Natalie, for this
course.
much needed update.
Of course, thank you.
For our culture round of Right and Writer, first up, we were not alone in not watching the Oscars this weekend. It was the lowest rated show ever, probably because it was boring and predictable, full of jokes against Republicans, and to no one's surprise, the movie about fish sex taking home Best Picture. Rutz, why is Hollywood so terrible?
Great question. Predictable that its ratings would be the worst ever. It was a bad show. I watched the whole thing in preparation
did.
for this podcast. It was dreadful. It wasn't funny. It was preachy. It was like most award shows were, quite frankly. But I think this is another scalp for the president. The last 2 years that he's been in office have been the 2 worst rated Oscars in history. This year, for the first time ever, the college football playoff got more viewers than the Academy Awards. That is a victory for the country and for especially for the South, where football is king. But why are the Oscars so terrible? I mean, look at Jimmy Kimmel. I mean, y'all talked about it last week. Like, it starts with him. It's a guy who a year ago was like, oh, yeah, Kimmel, he's a guy on The Man Show, and he was like, girls jumping on trampolines and boobs and beer and fun, and now he's weeping on air about gun control and healthcare, and he's saying, like, oh, my gosh, the gay movie was to make Mike Pence mad. Like, that was a joke written for the Academy Awards. It was embarrassing.
Harrison, we also had Ryan Seacrest get almost no interviews on the red carpet, I heard, because he's swept up in this Me Too movement.
Look, I think Seacrest is getting railroaded here. I'm going to defend him a little bit. Look, on his worst day, in the worst part of the accusations here, what was he doing? He was boner grinding on his makeup artist. in his underwear. Okay? Now, it's Seacrest. He's a little guy. Like, this is not a big, threatening, fat piece of like Harvey Weinstein. Like, you want to talk about like doing some maybe some inappropriate boner grinding versus like actual rape and actual sexual assault and actually threatening people's careers. Seacrest has been accused of none of those. Like inappropriate, yes, maybe that merits like a, I don't know, like a 5-game suspension or something like that, maybe a fine. But the guy's a real talent. He's the hardest working man in Hollywood right now and in New York. He's working bi-coastal. I mean, let the guy have a little fun. It's all right. She doesn't have to work there. She's a makeup artist. There's 1,000 of those jobs in Hollywood, 1 million of those jobs in Hollywood. Seacrest, in.
I don't think Seacrest did it. I saw Kelly Ripa come to his defense. I've seen a lot of with these guys. It's always like more than one person. And
yeah, but Rutz,
also, quick, can I just say real quick?
Rutz, hold on.
Oh, God.
You don't think he did it? Listen, in this era of Me Too, you always have to assume that he did it.
Oh boy.
Take the woman's side.
Yeah,
but what happened to due process, like Trump says? All these mere accusations.
They're entitled to due process, but let me tell you something. We need to err on the side of prosecuting here. It's modern feminism. I'm a modern feminism. I'm a modern feminist, and I just assume that these things happened. And so, if you take them all at their worst, then you can actually make a true evaluation of who's bad and who's good.
Yes. Okay. Good points, Harrison. Next up, Twitter was in a frenzy over Brooklyn barbecue after Vice declared it was, quote, taking over the world. It's a more modern, urban, non-traditional barbecue, and it's exactly what you would think if Brooklyn hipsters got a hold of brisket. Tiny portions with an espresso-based dry rub. Harrison, you're a real American. Where can you really find the best barbecue?
I mean, pretty much probably anywhere outside of Brooklyn. I mean, look, I'm actually surprised that it was real meat that they were using in Brooklyn. That was more shocking than anything. I thought that the vegans just ran that place now, ever since the hipsters took over a couple years ago. So, look, I was shocked to see that. What I was also kind of curious about when you see this plate, which literally had 4 strips of sliced brisket, 2 pickles, and a cup of dark beer. Yeah, like actual
tiny
pickles.
Rolls. Those
and a
rolls.
King's Hawaiian roll.
Yeah.
So no barbecue sauce to mention. But what I didn't see was a price tag. And I'd be very curious to know what that lame platter of barbecue actually costs. My guess is north of $30. That's the way the hipsters roll. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised once again to find out that it wasn't actually real meat, that it was some kind of vegan concoction. But that's really my take. Look, I think you can find good barbecue just about anywhere. Anybody that's got enough passion and enough time for the whole process and the culinary skills to develop a good barbecue sauce and knows how to cook low and slow, I think that you can find good barbecue just about anywhere. I'm not even going to take sides on this issue other than to say that saying that Brooklyn is taking over the barbecue world is asinine.
Rutz, thoughts?
Very few. I find food snob Twitter the most boring thing on earth. So
I know. I didn't even really want to talk about this.
I saw everyone really upset about it, and I was like, "Oh my god, I don't care." And I went out and got some McDonald's.
That's exactly. I looked at it and I was like, I just don't care. Okay, next up, Bumble announced it is banning pictures of guns from its dating app because guns are bad. Rutz, is it a good business model to ban the hottest pictures of women from your dating app?
Apparently, this is like the new thing. Kroger banning AR-15s from their stores, and now Bumble banning guns from their pictures. I think that I'm looking at this a different way. Is there a dating app for gun owners? I think there should be one specifically
There's
for
farmers
gun
only.
Yeah,
I'm
I
sure
think
they have guns.
I think this is an opportunity for gun owners to get together and create their own app to meet fellow Second Amendment lovers. You could call it Bang or something like that. I don't know.
I think this is
an opportunity.
Yeah, we should
Bang with an exclamation point.
Why don't we start this now and get out of the podcast business?
But you have to have a gun in your picture.
Harrison,
why? I don't understand it. I mean, look, you can put a picture of did they limit it to the certain types of weapons that you can have? Like,
no,
could you pose with a BB gun? Could you pose with a squirt gun? Could you pose with a super soaker?
If you're a cop or in the military,
right,
you're okay. But everyone else, they're going to go through your pictures and make you take them down.
Look,
It's crazy.
I'm kind of I'm split on this one a little bit. All right, now let me tell you why. Because I'm not necessarily look. We all know what Bumble is for. Bumble is to get laid. It's for young kids.
It's the feminist version of Tinder,
right? Because the women approach on Bumble,
So
and
more
you don't
sex.
you don't get to like, the guys don't get to pursue. So look.
Yeah,
I
are
think
we
if you're-
really surprised then that they banned guns? I mean,
it is kind of what it is, right? Here's your feminist version of Tinder to hook up. So, if I was advising a young guy to get laid by the hottest chicks around, I'm not sure that I would suggest posing with an AR-15 or a shotgun. I think it has a tendency to scare off a lot of your pool. And if I'm advising these guys on how to properly use Bumble, I want to have them. I want them to have the largest possible
Puppies.
pool. Puppies, great call. Puppies,
Goldfarb,
like
yeah.
Cats, babies.
yeah, athletic achievements.
but you always have to say, "Baby's not mine." That's my nephew.
Yeah, exactly. Or my recently deceased wife.
Success in
Okay.
numbers.
Last but certainly not least, Death Wish, the new Bruce Willis movie about vigilante justice in the streets of Chicago, is being called propaganda for the NRA. Goldfarb, Harrison, and Sonny Bunch went out and saw it yesterday. Guys, was it as good as they say it is?
Better. It's better than
New
they say it is.
franchise?
And listen, let me tell you something. This is we are at a cultural crossroads in this country. You are either with freedom and the Constitution or you're against it. And if you're with freedom and the Constitution, especially the Second Amendment, you're going to go see Death Wish, and you're going to go see it today.
Goldfarb?
I'm just glad they finally made a Black Panther for white people. It's a really high quality movie. I give it 7 stars out of 5, and what can I say? It was a great movie. I will say I watched the original Death Wish over the weekend to give myself some context. I'd not actually seen it. It is a more interesting movie. It is less satisfying, but more interesting, which is like some kind of statement on where we are as a culture. But great movie.
Well, you touched on the satisfaction moment. I mean, that's what a good revenge movie is all about. It is about just pure bloodlust. They skimped on none of the violence. In fact, they actually ramped up some of the violence in
Right,
a lot
but
of
the
these
original
scenes.
movie was not a revenge movie. It was a reprisal movie,
But that's a
which
good
is
point.
more interesting, right? He doesn't actually go after. He doesn't even try and get Jeff Goldblum, right? He's just killing random bad guys
Well, he's
on the street.
He's a true vigilante in Death Wish 1. Like, he's, as you say, like that's what a vigilante is. It's they go out and they start crime fighting on their own because they can't trust the corrupt fat cops that aren't interested in solving their crime, and so they're going to take matters into their own hands. Listen, this movie has it all. It's got a great emotional plot line. It's got a lot of hot chicks. I'm going to tell you that right now. For the guys out there, for the ladies, you got Bruce Willis at his finest.
I mean, what more could you
this
ask
guy is
for?
defending his family. A lot of great lines in this movie too.
Aren't they already
So-
dead when the action starts?
Wait a minute. Well, you haven't seen the movie.
No.
What are you chiming in here with these fake spoiler alerts for? Like, okay, there is a death in the family, but Rutz, you're gonna spoil a movie if you start throwing out fake news. Like, let's be very clear.
Defending the family that's still alive after he failed to defend them at the beginning, right?
Excuse, look,
Whoa.
get out of here! Like, this guy.
I read the plot.
Look, you are an anti-Second Amendment crusader in the office if there ever has been one. This is
Rutz has been muted.
Yeah, thank you very much. You got to close off the fake news.
Thank you, producer.
Yeah,
for
good
doing that.
job. But no, this movie was really good. There were a couple of slow parts. I think Mike
Really?
said something during the screening. We had a private screening down in Georgetown that was arranged for us.
Elites.
And but Mike did mention, he was like, when are we going to get to the killing? That if I was to say, there was one like kind of universal criticism about the movie, it was saying that like it took a while for Bruce to get into beast mode.
Yeah, they also toned down the raping from the original movie, but it's a great movie. It's very entertaining. I liked it.
That's
3
not a
thumbs
pro
up.
or con, just a statement.
Yeah, I watched both movies, so I'm making comparisons.
Yeah.
Harrison pointed out on the way, he's like, dude, why are you trying to hold? You're looking for plot holes. You just got to enjoy it.
Yeah.
This
Take it for what it is.
this
A
is
great
it's
new
pure entertainment.
masterpiece.
Yeah,
New
I-
franchise. How many more are they going to make?
I hope. Well, Sonny, I think,
How many
tweeted
more
out
should they make?
that Sonny, I believe, on Twitter said that he would see 50 sequels to this movie. I think that might be a little excessive because I think you do kind of water down the quality after a while.
And
but
how
I'm with
old
him in the
is
sentiment.
Bruce going to be by then? Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to get a new Bruce. Let me tell you, he
New
was
James
starting
Bond.
to. I would say Bruce might be starting to show his age a little bit. He's still got the acting chops, though. Let me tell you.
If
All
they
right.
go to 50 of these, there's going to be some really horrible shit that happens to that daughter.
And with that, unfortunately, is all the time we have for today's edition of Right and Writer. I'd like to give a special thanks to our producer, Louis Bunch IV, and of course, our Free Beacon guests, Aaron Harrison, David Rutz, Natalie Johnson, and Michael Goldfarb. Remember, find us on iTunes and Google Play. Just search for Free Beacon. Please subscribe, tell your friends, and leave a review. Until next time.